But now we thought we'd go something a little more local. Speaking of local politicians, Bob Ferguson has been speaking. We have some new audio. He's talking about he's going to be governor in 6 days. We should take a second to think about that. 6 days from now, we're going to have a new governor, which means that 6 days from now, we don't ever have to talk about Jay Inslee again.
Yeah. But are we going to have a new governor? Are we really?
Are we just going
to have a retread?
Yes, of
the exact same governor we've had for the last 12 years.
Yeah, it's Inslee Jr.
Yeah. That's the thing that breaks my heart.
It's Inslee with glasses, essentially. And you, during the election cycle, you were actually somebody who was saying, hey, even though maybe I don't agree with all of the policies that he agrees or he believes in, I am a person who could maybe look at Reichert. You were looking at Reichert.
I didn't just look. I didn't just look at Dave Reichert.
Did you vote for him?
I can honestly tell you today that I did.
God bless you, Spike. That's why people like you. Because you're open-minded.
And I got to tell you, from a policy perspective, I was more in tune, in line with what Bob Ferguson pushes for. The agendas that are important to him are important to me and my family. But there's an integrity issue with Bob Ferguson that I've come to learn about throughout the course of that election. And now that's how I have to look at this incoming governorship. And in that same jaundiced light, about how Bob Ferguson, any means to the end with Ferguson is what I've been taught to understand, but brought to understand.
Here's the nice thing: people in this area, they have us. We can keep this guy honest.
That's our job. It will be in keeping of the tradition of this radio station.
We will try to keep him honest. We will highlight the failures. Listen, if he has any successes to speak of, we're happy to mention those too. Although those are going to be few and far between, I'm guessing.
But we will shine a bright light.
We must.
Yeah, absolutely.
We must. So that we can try to avoid horrible things happening.
Just 6 days, buddy, and we're off and running on this guy.
6 days.
Yeah.
We got to figure out a fun way to refer to him. I was trying to think, like, is there a fun, because he's like sandpaper. You can't get a read on the guy. Is there a fun way that we could refer to Bob Ferguson in a, I don't know, kind of a lighthearted way that we can do that? Also, might tweak him a little, might annoy him just a tiny bit. And so anytime we talk about Bob Ferguson, this is my suggestion. This doesn't have to be it. And the audience can let us know if they think this is stupid. But, every time we talk to...
Hold on, I'm writing something down.
All right.
I think I know where you made... Because you and I think a lot alike on a lot of things.
You write it down, and then we'll see if we did.
Okay.
Because every time I talked about Jay Inslee, I would play the, I'm not a smart man from Forrest Gump. All right. So this is what I want to play every time that I mention Bob Ferguson. And you've written something down?
Okay, I have.
All right. This is the soundbite that I'm going to play every time I mention that man's name. Bob Ferguson. Oh, man, my audio is that.
I thought something more soundy.
All right, let's try it again. Bob Ferguson. Fergalicious, right?
That's not what I came up with.
I don't know this to be true. I've heard this from people.
Okay.
Allegedly. But that's his nickname in private life is Fergalicious.
Fergalicious? Okay.
Or Fergie. People call him Fergie or Fergalicious.
I can see Fergie.
That's not true. But
do you remember, what I thought you were going to go with?
What were you gonna...
Do you remember, you like Saturday Night Live?
Of course.
Do you like the...
old Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, old Saturday Night Live. Do you like the Celebrity Jeopardy?
Yeah.
Big fan of Celebrity Jeopardy?
Yeah, of course.
You know where I'm going here?
Maybe.
Remember Norm Macdonald's character? Where he would parody Burt Reynolds?
Yeah, I do.
Remember Burt Reynolds' name on Celebrity Jeopardy?
What is it?
Turd Ferguson.
Turd Ferguson. I didn't think of that. That's a good one.
That's pretty good, huh?
Turd Ferguson. Funny name.
Funny name.
All right.
Anyway, what's Bob up to now?
Speaking of Fergie or Fergalicious or Turd Ferguson, depending on who you are.
This has got legs. That's got legs.
We should pull Turd Ferguson, too. Can we get Turd Ferguson as quickly as possible so that we can have that by the end of this? Funny name.
Gotta have the show.
All right. Bob Ferguson was talking about the Washington State ferry system, and he was saying this is a front burner issue. I don't know who talks like that. Politicians talk like that. You and me don't talk like that. But he said this is a front burner issue. He says when you have a crisis, you have to act like it's a crisis. I agree with him. Obviously, it's a crisis. We know that's a problem, but how is he going to fix it?
Front burner issue. If you have a crisis, you need to act like it's a crisis. We're making every conceivable effort to prioritize this and move faster and quicker to address the challenge.
Ooh, faster and quicker.
Faster and quicker.
Wow.
Which is, that's what you want.
That's really going to catch on.
I'm going to really like that.
Really going to catch on.
That's going to be fun. All right, so he says it's a front burner issue.
Mm-hmm.
We all know how bad it is. We've talked about this many times.
Right.
For the last, how long have I been with my wife? 16 years. For the last 16 years, we have been at least 1 or 2 weekends a month. Not always, but usually about 1 or 2 weekends a month, we find ourselves heading out on the Edmonds-Kingston Ferry.
Okay. Because
my in-laws, God rest his soul, my father-in-law has passed away, but my mother-in-law still lives out there, out near Port Townsend.
Okay.
So we got to take that ferry run all the time. 16 years ago when we were taking that run, really consistently in the wintertime, you're waiting, depending on the time that you got there, it was your fault if you didn't make the boat. If you got there at the right time, it was your fault.
It was easy to manage a realistic schedule navigation. Yeah, absolutely.
During the wintertime, during the off-season.
Yeah.
During the summertime, it's a crapshoot. Yeah. Because obviously people are out there a long time. I'm not going to besmirch them during the summertime. They're busy. You weren't seeing canceled runs like you are now. You're seeing all these canceled runs. Agreed. All the boats are so old now. They're like, oh, these boats are breaking down.
Boats breaking down. You can't get spare parts. You can't staff the boats.
You can't staff the boats.
You don't have mechanics to fix the broken boats. You don't have people to bring cars on and off the boats when they are running.
So they've been operating.
Not to mention the increased demand for services because the area is growing.
Sure, the area is growing, yeah. And everybody wants to get on a ferry boat. Everybody loves seeing a ferry boat.
Yeah.
So they've been having... They've been operating like 2/3 capacity for a long time.
Okay.
Usually about 15 boats, sometimes down to 13, depending on what the old boats are doing that day. And they should have 21, 22 running, but they don't.
Right.
Because they just can't seem to get their act together. There's also been kind of a revolving door of people who are in charge over there at Washington State Ferry System.
Very true. They've
been taking the job and then leaving the job pretty quickly. So Bob Ferguson is stepping in, and Bob Ferguson says that this is a front burner issue and he's going to fix this problem. One of the first things that I think he could do that would make a huge impact, back in 2021, when there was all that pandemic madness and the COVID vaccine mandate that Jay Inslee released from on high, and he said, listen, all state employees are required to get this COVID shot.
I remember it well.
Even if you have a religious objection to it, even if you have all these different things.
A lot of people found religion that spring. Remember that? Yeah, a lot of people found religion.
Not as many as you would think. Not as many as you would think.
Okay.
I mean, we do live in the most unchurched state in the union.
Okay.
But
we really do.
We really do, actually. So it led to like 2,000 people who worked in transportation. And Washington State Ferries is part of the state transportation.
Yeah, USDOT, you bet.
Technically a highway.
Right. We lost snowplow drivers in the mountains. We lost ferry workers on the water.
Talk about essential workers. Remember that? That was a big phrase back then.
You bet.
So we lose all these people. He puts out this mandate, and he says everybody has to have it. And if you don't have it, then you're not welcome to work here. And so they end up losing 132 ferry workers. And the downside of that was that you now have boats, and we're seeing this all the time now. They have never recovered from that.
That's right.
We are so understaffed on our ferry boats that just one person calling in sick. Listen to what King 5 describes here. This is interesting. King 5 says a wave of retirements brought, and that's misleading. I'll tell you why in just a second. A wave of retirements brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic swept across Washington State ferries, meaning a single sick call can snarl the entire system. That is really poorly managed. If a single person, think about that, a single person calls out sick and an entire boat is sidelined because there's so many people that have to have that staffed legally. They have to have so many people working on those boats.
Yeah, for safety reasons. I understand completely.
For safety reasons.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the idea that a wave of retirements, that makes it sound like these people are all like playing golf somewhere in sunnier conditions. That's not what happened. You have people who are fired. They call them separated, but it's a nice word for fired. 132 workers were forced out. Guess how many of the 132 were retired? That's what King 5 decided to focus on. But I feel like that's very misleading. How many people chose
retirement as opposed to termination?
How many people could even take retirement? You'd have to be at a certain point of your career. 11.
11. Wow, okay.
121 were fired.
Yeah.
Now here's what. Now in 2023, Jay Inslee rescinded that mandate. He finally started reading science, and he said, "Hey, you know what? It actually doesn't stop you from getting it. Doesn't stop you from spreading it." And if you're working on a ferry boat, you're probably pretty young and you're probably pretty healthy and you're not in the high-risk category. So he rescinded the thing.
Okay.
They did not invite these workers back, which to me is a huge mistake.
Yeah, horrible mistake.
Horrible mistake.
Absolutely.
Day one, what Jay Inslee should have done, but again, we play the cut all the time. I'm not a smart man. They should have sent a letter out and said, listen, I know that we fired you, and I know that we offended you deeply trying to make a medical decision on your behalf, which I don't even know how that's legal. And now they are caught up in a bunch of lawsuits right now. Yeah. That's going to be decided in court. Please come back. We need you. The entire region is stuck because we can't get these boats to run, and you guys already can do the job, and you're good at the job, and you're part of the union. Please come back.
So what's Fergie do? Well, what's Fergalicious do? How does he fix this?
That's my question. Fergalicious, the first thing I would do, there's 121 people who are forced out.
Okay.
Who are separated, as they say.
Yeah.
Reach out to them and say, listen, guys.
With back pay and damages?
Of course.
Well, okay. I'm with you, but we're talking about money then. Now because the solution to any problem is how much money is it going to take?
They are already $10 billion in the hole on the Washington State ferry system.
Right.
You think 121 people is going to be, that's chump change. That's nothing. You think Fergie can't deal with that? No, obviously they can find the money.
Okay.
That would be very tasty.
Can I give you one possible solution for it's because it's about money, right?
Yeah.
Sure. Remember last year when there was an outrage about advertisements on ferry boats?
I do remember.
They were going to hang some Coca-Cola banners or something on a ferry boat, and people just lost their minds.
No, they did do it. They put it up,
and they took it down. If I'm not mistaken, there's no advertisements, there's no visible billboarding on ferry boats because it's a beautiful thing. Okay. It's nature. It's the ferry boats. Watch ferry boats. You know what? And I said it then, and I'll say it today. I go to sleep every night. The last thing I think about is
advertisements on ferry boats.
Yeah. It's a missed opportunity. You want to pay for the ferry system? You want to buy new boats?
Sure.
You want to pay any price to get more boats in the water today?
Sure.
Fix the broken ones, get the new ones in place, pay the people a salary it will take in a competitive job market to get them on the boats?
Sure.
Then advertise on the ferry boats.
It
should look like a NASCAR out there.
I could care less.
Should be stickers every 2 inches on a ferry boat, bringing in revenue to fund our ferry system.
I'm totally fine with that.
But people lost their minds because it's such a natural resource. It's beautiful. It's going to be ugly. If you are looking at the stickers on the side of a ferry boat, you turn around. You're looking in the wrong direction. Look out. Look at the water. Look at the mountains. Look at the whales.
I will say, the ferry boats uniquely are kind of beautiful in our waterways.
They really are.
Like when I drive by the Link Light Rail, and I see the Link Light Rail has all these, ads on it. You know, they put the skin on it. You know, they put the plastic stuff.
Yeah, they wrap them. They call it. Yeah,
wraps. That's it. Yeah. It's a wrap. It's not the most beautiful thing in the world, but whatever. It's new. I don't have like a connection to it. It's not the most beautiful thing in
the world. You're right.
It's better than graffiti. I don't want to see them covered in graffiti either. So it's like in New York, you see a lot of these subway trains are covered in graffiti. I don't want that either. It's a wrap. Whatever. I'm fine with it. Mm-hmm. On the ferry boats, I can understand why people are upset. But if they're in dire straits and they need to make money, that's great.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, though. I think a big portion of the reason that they're struggling right now, I think a lot of that is mismanagement of funds.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
And so if you're dipping into new revenue sources because you're refusing to deal with issues that you should be dealing with in the office first, before you're starting to cover these things in McDonald's ads or whatever it might be.
Right.
Clean your house up first.
I'm with you there. You don't paint the place until you put the fire out.
If they have overturned every stone and done everything they can to be as financially responsible as they could possibly be, before they start, covering it with Kinko's ads.
Right.
Kinko's still around?
I think they are. They would be if we advertise on ferries.
They would be.
Sure.
People who ride ferries are probably going into Kinko's.
Where can I make copies?
You need a copy made? Right. Put a Kinko's on a ferry boat. That's a nice idea. Or like put an actual restaurant chain on a ferry boat. That would be cool. Like put a real McDonald's on a ferry boat.
You deserve a break today.
You deserve a break. Captured audience, that'd be great.
Right.
So if they're taking care of all that other stuff first, then I'm fine with them covered as much as you need to. I don't care.
Yeah.
As long as I'm getting places on time.
They keep raising the fare. That's always the case. Go into my pocket, your pocket to solve our problems.
Always.
Not correct mismanagement. Not look for other revenue streams other than my and your pockets.
Think of where Governor Inslee is leaving this state. I mean, as we look back on the 6 days left with him, and he's not going to do anything in the next 6 days.
Not going to pardon everybody. Not going to commute a lot of sentences.
He probably will if whatever.
The governors have the same
power he has.
Power they have. The presidents have.
That is a great question. Yeah. I did not know that.
I think they do because I read somewhere one of the states, the governor pardoned a lot of
federally, they can't do anything.
A governor commuted the entirety of death row. I think it was the Carolinas.
Okay,
might have been Virginia, but one outgoing. It was Carolinas. Outgoing governor commuted all of death row. all those sentences, commuted those to life sentences as opposed to death sentences.
The state
did, yeah. So I think governors have that kind of power.
Well, I don't know what he's going to be doing in the next, but think about where we're at. The state has a projection over the next, the next 4 years? They have like a $16 billion deficit.
Deficit. In the red.
Deficit.
Yeah, we're in the red.
That's not good.
Yeah.
$10 billion also for the Washington State Ferry system in the next 10 years.
Yeah.
This is not a well-run state. And like you were saying, we're getting Inslee Jr. here with Fergie coming in.
Yeah.
Turd Ferguson. Do we have that clip yet? Do we have Turd Ferguson?
Mr. Reynolds has apparently changed his name to Turd Ferguson.
Yeah, that's right. Turd Ferguson. It's a funny name.
Boom. That's the
yours
one.
wins.
Thank you,
I think yours is going to win. I think
Turd Ferguson.
Here's what I want the audience to do. 888-973-5476. Whenever we talk about the esteemed governor-elect,
incoming,
Bob Ferguson,
his honor,
should we be playing the Turd Ferguson clip?
Turd Ferguson. It's a funny name.
Or should we be playing the Fergalicious clip?
I don't want to supersede the audience because this is your show. But we did say earlier we would highlight both good and bad.
Give me a good.
Right. Well, if he does, if he ever comes up with one,
I was like,
if he ever comes up with one, he's Fergalicious. When he cramps the bed, he is Turd Ferguson.
So Fergalicious is the positive one because he's tasty.
Right. And he may never get any playtime, and I'm going to be all over the road with mine.
Turd Ferguson.
When he drops the ball.
I kind of like the way you're thinking, Spike.
Yeah. Right.
I think that's a good idea.
And maybe we could have people vote on an issue.
Yeah.
Who was it today?
Was this a turd or a Fergie? Was this a Fergalicious or a Turd Ferguson? That's really funny. All right. I think that's what we're going to do. The fun times are just starting, my friends.